yet! Huh? Green Dragon Shield!
Okay, so yeah, here's the disclaimer thing. These properties are owned by this guy, and yeah, just don't copyright strike, but here's the fair use policy. Once more. So, as of June 15th, 2020, Bushiroad has pulled the plug on one of its biggest franchises, Future Card Buddyfight, after 6 years of running the card game. This isn't the first blow the Buddyfight fandom has had, as last year the Buddyfight Ace anime was cancelled in March, and the series has been relying heavily on crossover series to help sell their products, like Detective Conan and Bang Dream, when usually Vice Schwartz would handle the anime IPs Bushiroad gets. You might argue that Vanguard has done this before with Bang Dream as well as Token Rambu back in 2015. However, the difference is Vanguard is still going strong to this day. Not only has it got its anime running, but it's also preparing itself for the 10th anniversary tournament next year. On the contrary, Buddyfight only has these videos called This Week on Buddyfight airing on their channel, which only gets 3% of what the anime was getting. With Bushiroad now offering a free Vanguard trial deck to people who buy the latest and last Buddyfight booster box, it's obvious Buddyfight's time in the Bushiroad spotlight is up. While I do want to answer why the Buddyfight card game died as it is, I also want to talk about Buddyfight as a franchise in general, as Buddyfight is an important part of my childhood. Was it worthy to stand next to its big brother Vanguard, which is a juggernaut in the Japanese card game industry? Or was it just some regular cash-in card game that you can easily just play with your friends and not care about 1 second later? Well, that's what I want to use this video to talk about. The Buddyfight Retrospective. Wait a second. What? What on earth is a Future Card Buddyfight? Well, Future Card Buddyfight is a card game that revolves around the concept of having a buddy monster and fighting for a world, with the objective of bringing your opponent's life points down to 0. I'll explain gameplay and mechanics more when we get to that section, but to start off, I want to give my backstory with the card game and show how much it means to me and how much it's grown with me throughout the year. Let me rewind you back to the summer of 2014, where many people might be going on vacation or enjoying the warm sun. I wasn't really enjoying it as well as others. I was in a bad part of my young middle school life. First off, in summer camp, I was bullied a lot, and the camp counselors didn't really care because as long as they're making money, they really didn't care about what was going on with the other kids. Not to mention, my uncle passed away, and to be honest, this was the first death in a family member I've ever experienced in my life. That sudden reality just hit really hard and got me really upset for days on end. While I was at a grocery store preparing for the funeral with my aunt, I was staring at those card dispenser machines and I noticed the start deck they give for 2 players to try. Seeing how much I was eyeing it, my aunt decided to buy me the deck. And after going home and playing and watching the anime, I loved it. But I didn't wrap myself fully into it until I got into Vanguard in the fall and realized, wait, you two are siblings? Ever since then, I immersed myself into the game, buying more cards and building 2 competitive decks to play, watching the anime. I enjoyed every bit of it. The only problem was no one in my area actually played, let alone knew what a Buddyfight was. So going to the spring fests and tournaments were my only way, and that was an hour drive from where I was. The series was fun, but going into high school, I started to outgrow it. The magic I saw from before was drifting away, and was losing its flair, so to speak. But even so, I will always remember my memories with it, and how much it meant to me growing up in middle school. Okay, I think I've talked enough about my history with the card game. Now let's move on to, well, the card game part of this video. Part 1. The card game. Let me start off with a recap for the background of the card game. 2 players use a deck of 50 or more cards to bring their opponent's life down from 10 to 0. To accomplish this, players use a combination of cards from a specific world or call monsters with specific attributes and call them under a flag. The flags in Buddyfight consist of, but not limited to, Dragon World, the Spell Card World. Wait, who are you again? Tricky. Big Monster Deck, the card game equivalent of Mario Party. Dungeon World, Dragon World, but every villain is lemon. Obligatory tokusatsu reference. Evil deck. Evil deck. Dragon World, but future. Fancy. Not evil deck. Evil. Wait, aren't you the same flag but with the number 2 behind it? Whatever. Under your flag, you are able to call monsters, cast spells, and impacts from that world, and equip items so you, the player, can fight alongside your monsters. The piece that tops it off is you also need a buddy, and are rewarded a life for calling your buddy onto the field for the first time, also known as a buddy gift. To start, unless you're using one of those attribute-based flags, you get 10 life, 6 hand cards, and 2 in the gauge, which is used to perform actions. The turns are simple. Draw, charge and draw, put a card from your hand into the gauge to draw another card, main phase to call monsters, cast spells, and equip items, battle phase to do combat, and final phase to use impacts or call impact monsters. There are a few main rules to follow. The total monster's size cannot be more than 3 on the field. You can only attack the person directly if there's no monster in the center. You can only attack with an item if there's no monster in your center. And other certain abilities such as Soul Guard, Double Attack, Lifelink, etc. Depending on the way your deck is built and how it operates, the flow of battle can vary greatly, from either stalling the opponent or full-on sweeping the field. Hearing these rules and seeing how it's played, it's pretty clear to see what made it stand out. And honestly, that's what I enjoyed most about playing the game. With the system of having your favorite monster as your buddy, and also using items, the game gives a sense of identity to the player. Instead of just being a player that gets life points, gets to call monsters, it makes the player feel like they're in the game fighting alongside their monsters and not just holding cards at a table. As Buddyfight got older, this concept got heavily improved, especially with decks like Jackknife and Hero that would let you equip the monsters for you to battle with. Personally, this was such a cool idea to me, and that's what made Buddyfight stick out to me the most. You really don't see this player getting immersed into the card game that Buddyfight offers, not even in Vanguard. Speaking of other TCGs, one would be quick to assume that it's just another card game that wants to sneak into the mainstream by stealing assets from the other TCGs in the system, like items and spells from Magic and the life point system from Yu-Gi-Oh! To be honest, I can understand that critique, but while playing this in the other two as well, it's clear to see that Buddyfight genuinely tries to make its own identity, as instead of ripping these ideas plain out, it changes it up to not only give it a familiar warmth, but also give its own unique twist that makes itself stand out instead of being lumped together with the other ideas of card games. The best example I can give of this is Lifelink. Magic the Gathering players might quickly recognize this ability as damage dealt by creature also causes its controller to gain that much life. However, in Buddyfight, it's the exact opposite. When a monster is destroyed, you take damage equal to the damage specified in the card. For example, if it says Lifelink 2, you take 2 damage. And finally, the one thing I really, and I mean really, want to applaud is the card art. While it's no lie that a lot of card games have good monster art and it's not much big news, Buddyfight likes to take it one step further. When we analyze the card, there is so much to unpack within it. Not only is the artwork great, if not stunning, but the true identity lies within, around the card. When looking at a card to find an attribute, element, clan, or any archetype, you most likely have to look at a small print in a corner of the card. Buddyfight takes this one step further. When looking around the card, you'll notice that indeed you can see the name of the world on the bottom left. But if that itself wasn't enough, you'll see on the top left an icon that shows this world through a symbol, like a dragon for Dragon World or a torch for Dungeon World. And if that wasn't enough, where the numbers for attack, defense, and critical, there is a unique design for the border depending on the world. As well as for the name of the card, there is a font dedicated to that world. This is what makes Buddyfight as a card game unique. Instead of just having an archetype and showing it by text and maybe like one art style, Buddyfight goes out of the way to visually detail this border to let the player know, hey, this is no ordinary card, this is this world's card, and look at the colors and design of this world! Aside from the basic card look. And now we'll want to bring up their highest rare card, the Buddy Rare card, which only appears 1 in every 16 boxes or a case. Not only is this fun and gives it differentiation from other card rarities, but you guessed it, the artwork is great. For comparison, let's analyze the highest rarity card in Yu-Gi-Oh! As of now, the Ghost Rare card. Looking at the Ghost Rare card, what they put to show its ghost is holofoil on the art, holofoil on the star, holofoil just everywhere. With the Buddy Rare card, yeah, you get a foil, but to show its beautiful rarity, the whole card is gold. Like, not just the image or the text, the whole card, with the only exception being the text that lists the abilities and stats. While the artwork isn't all goldified like in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the gold is in small parts of the monster's design. For example, Tsukikage has gold in his horns and Drum has gold in his helmet. Not only was it a cool design competitive-wise, but it was also good collectible-wise. Continuing with card art, one thing Buddyfight heavily monopolized on is having the characters featured in the card. Now, before you comment that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has done this before, as well as Vanguard, let me give two rebuttals. One, Vanguard has only been doing this practice post-2018 after their reset, and two, although Yu-Gi-Oh! Has done it for promos, it's not really that present or often in the cards, usually when the anime plot ties into a card being a skill or personality outside of a game, such as Yubel from GX. On the contrary, Buddyfight, ever since Trial Deck 1, ever since Booster Box 1, they have always attempted to show the art of the anime characters within the card art alongside the monsters. Not only does it make me feel good to see the characters on the card, like the anime, but it also really brings the player deeper into the world and universe of Buddyfight. Seeing Tetsuya on a Magic World card or Zanya on a Katana World card outside of the anime was really cool and something you didn't see in cards oftenly. Personally, seeing a character that reminds me of the anime and also inspired me to play the deck is satisfying and shows how much the artists and creators enjoy their creations. While Buddyfight has a lot going for it and is actually really fun in my opinion, there are a few flaws to playing the card game. Although it obviously appeals to a much younger audience, Buddyfight isn't the easiest card game to understand. It honestly can be daunting at first, and with the 5 types of cards together, it's not going to be an easy task to learn. One card type that I personally don't like, and I see a lot of people don't like, it's definitely got to be the impact cards. Although the game got older and the meta changed, a good amount of impact cards still seem to be just a nuke card. For example, let's take the most well-known impact card in the game, Gargantua Punisher. When the card game first debuted in 2014, this card was heavily promoted, either in the ads or the anime, which I will touch on later. And what it does is, you may only cast this card if your opponent has 4 life or less, and neither you nor your opponent has a monster in the center. Pay 4 gauge and deal 4 damage to your opponent. This card cannot be nullified and the damage cannot be reduced. This card, by its literal text, is a nuke, and Gargantua Punisher isn't the only one like it. Each world sorta has their own nuke button in impact form. When it's at the final phase and how you need to set it up for a win condition, it feels mostly like a way to quickly end the game, and knowing what's coming next makes it less surprising. Yeah, some can do damage at any life count, and yes, some can be countered and or help save you when your life hits 0, but it still gives the vibe of, okay, it's over. Luckily, they adjusted the impact and final phase concept in 2 ways. One was that they decreased damage output and kept gauge cost lower. Although they made it easier to cast impact cards, the damage output was decreased and also gave it more stricter rules for it to activate. Not to mention, they also incorporated several other abilities, such as soul charging and standing monsters to attack. A second way they fixed this aside from giving it different abilities is the concept of impact monsters, which wasn't a nuke button, but a monster only to be summoned in final phase. This not only made the flow of play different, but also gave more of an incentive to balance out your options in the other phases, rather than just relying on one phase for a setup and then attack in battle and finish with impact. Moving away with the flaws of impact, I want to discuss another thing that plagued Buddyfight, especially in its later years, power creep. Now, wait a second. Don't all card games have power creep? Well, yes. And here's the difference between the power creep of other card games and Buddyfight. When it came to other card games, they were somewhat slow, and you were able to pick up when the meta was changing. When you see a new meta, you have to see what cards you're gonna buy, what strategies you now gotta incorporate, and other plays in order to keep up with the pace and not fall behind. Buddyfight's biggest problem was that the pace went too fast. Was Buddyfight always like this, you may be wondering? No, not at all. This power creep came into play in 2017 and 2018 when Buddyfight X was airing, and we got introduced to the Thunder Empire decks and Chaos World decks. If you weren't playing a Chaos World or Thunder Empire deck, you were most likely gonna lose. But wait, didn't a lot of people play other decks like Jackknife? Yeah, people played Jackknife a lot. However, Jackknife had competition. There were other decks that can compete with it, such as 100 Demons, Star Dragon World decks outside of the Jack archetype, Darkness Dragon World. With Chaos World and Thunder Empire, they were getting so much support, so many broken cards, to the point that these were the decks you would see rank high at nationals or regionals or other events. Yes, it's the main protagonist deck, and yes, it's the main antagonist decks. However, in the past of Buddyfight, you can build a deck around any world that wasn't Dragon World or Star Dragon World, and you would still get by fine. It may not be the best deck in competitive play, but it was still good enough depending on the player and what cards you incorporate. How did Bushiroad fix this? The same way they fixed Vanguard's meta. Let me explain. Vanguard also had a similar power creep incident with Gear Chronicle, and if you didn't have that deck, then sit in the loser's chamber alongside anyone else in Buddyfight who didn't have a Chaos and Thunder Empire deck. But Bushiroad fixed this Gear Chronicle power creep problem when they introduced Vanguard 2018. When Vanguard 2018 was introduced, you were only allowed to play a new format, not the G standard format. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vanguard fans, in the comments. The format was that you can only use cards after the reboot in 2018, meaning imaginary gifts, grade 0s, 1s, and 3s that were introduced. If you had cards that were 2018 and prior, like made during the original series, during the G series, grade 4s, grade 4 guards, Gear Chronicle, you weren't allowed to use that. And of course, Gear Chronicle got their own 2018 spin a few months later, but still, it was able to balance out and refresh the meta, so that way it wasn't just one deck. With Buddyfight, however, when Ace was introduced, the meta did not change. You were still allowed to use any cards, so if you wanted to use the brand new Garga and Deity deck, you can still get wrecked by a bots deck or a Chaos World deck. Speaking of bots and Garga, I did mention how I love the card art. However, as the series progressed, archetypes and skills seemed to get less inspired, and it was focused more on just dragons. It seemed every world had a dragon, compared to when worlds had their own unique gimmicks such as beasts, ninjas, demons, etc. To conclude, Buddyfight was a card game that had its good aspects that made it stand out, while also pertaining drawbacks. While its power creep got worse and designs lacked inspiration as the card game progressed, you can't really deny how unique the card game as a premise was, and the people who went out to actually buy the cards in stores or shops or online sites, they were rewarded with an actual fun card game that personally, anyone can enjoy. It has fun gameplay, it has a cute charm to it. Buddyfight is just a good game to recommend to anyone to play casually. If you truly want to go competitive and spend money on all the fancy cards, that's okay too. But of course, Bushiroad announced its ending support for tournaments in 2021. But hey, it's good for collecting since now you can collect them all, technically. As we move on from my discussion of the card game, I would like to transition to another component of Buddyfight that probably made you acknowledge its existence in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I present to you the anime! Part 2, the anime. Okay. Before I dive into the meat and potatoes of the anime, can we please just acknowledge how much of a bop this opening is? Okay, thank you, because man, that opening did not have to go hard, but it did. Premiering on January 4th, 2014 on TV Tokyo in Japan and worldwide on YouTube, the anime stars 12-year-old Gal Mikado, also known as the Mighty Sunfighter, who one day pulls a buddy rare monster and meets his buddy, Drum Bunker Dragon. Drum is heir to the throne of the Bunker clan in Dragon World, and although thinking he's worthy, his arrogance, hot-headedness, and stubbornness proves otherwise, as he is sent to Earth to become a stronger leader, character, and of course, buddy. After meeting each other, Gao is greeted by his new rival, Tsuku Ryoenji, Buddy Police Boy Wonder, who is the only one who wields the mighty strong card Gargantua Punisher. Hey, remember that card? Alongside his buddy, Jackknife Dragon, they give Gao a core deck case so he can luminize his deck to play Buddy Fight. However, Gao decides to challenge Tasuku in a Buddy Fight. After Gao beats him in a Buddy Fight, they decide to become rivals, and to symbolize it, they have a trade. Gao giving Tasuku the item card he used to beat him, and Tasuku gives Gao Gargantua Punisher. Along Gao's journey in the anime, he meets more friends and monsters, which he battles with to grow stronger and become buddies with, as friends, not actual monsters. Meanwhile, the main antagonist of the show, Kyoya Gaien, assembles a team named Disaster, a small group of teens which, honestly, I can sum up in this video. In the anime, Disaster is a group made of Kyoya Gaien and his friends, who want to renew the world because of all the adults who did a disaster. So now, they want to do a disaster. They're like the Phantom Thieves, but they need more help than they do change the world and all that, because man, these kids really need help. Don't stick your tongue out like that. Together, they harness the Disaster Force, which they use to try to plan an invasion for world domination. However, they are foiled with the power of Gao and Tasuku, with Future Force. What are these totally original concept forces, you may ask? Well, coming from the core deck case you get when you get a buddy, Future Force and Disaster Force make the cards real. However, the big difference is Future Force can't go far into the future, but mainly because Future Force derives its energy from the future and the hopes of the future. Meanwhile, Disaster Force not only makes the cards real, but it can also control the person and even destroy them. Disaster Force can happen at any time, with or without the consent of the user. Disaster Force and Future Force aren't really explained well and or in detail as expected, so it's kind of hard to truly get the idea, but just think of it as good versus evil, but like, Future Force is like, I must protect the future because I'm good, and then Disaster Force is like, I will destroy the future because I'm bad. After the first season, there are other seasons. Buddyfight 100 involves Gao joining the Buddy Police to take down the 100 demons to save the world. Triple D involves Gao's new buddy, Ball Dragon, to take on the World Buddy Cup, with Kyoya in the spotlight as the villain again. Buddyfight X involves Gao's new buddy, Bots, where they compete in the World Buddy Masters Tournament after being the designated Dragon World Fighter, along with the new villain, Wisdom wielding Chaos World. The final season is Buddyfight Ace, where we enter Gao's son, Yuga Mikado, the ace of games. Never heard that one before. After he gains the buddy Gargantua Dragon, he goes on adventures like winning a tournament, fighting a new evil world, Lost World, and getting that YouTube ad revenue. I would give each of them a hefty summary like I somewhat did with Season 1, but I want to keep this video as short as I can, and you can easily watch them on YouTube or Crunchyroll as well, with the only seasons not dubbed is Triple D and the second half of 100. For the retrospective, let's start with the positive aspects. The first one that I want to discuss is the world building. In the Buddyfight series, not only do we see the worlds interact, but we see the monsters and worlds being fleshed out. For example, we see in one episode Drum go into Dungeon World to train to get stronger, and this carries on as a few episodes later, we see Gao using a Dungeon World deck with Drum based off of it. Of course, this was just to promote the new booster box at the time, which had him in Magic World as well, but come on, it's Drum, and Drum is awesome. Also, he's Gao's best buddy. Fight me, bots and ball fans, he's the best one, the OG. A second example of this is also seeing Tasuku fight against the Purgatory Knight to unlock the powers of Star Dragon World. This becomes his main world throughout the rest of 100 and Triple D, moving away from the Dragon World identity he had to share with Gao and Naboru and other characters in the first season. There are so many examples besides these. Bots' legacy on Dragon World, the consequences the 100 Demons have had on other worlds. There's just so many. Story elements aren't usually thrown around just for fun, and the characters are shown to get more complex as the story progresses. Also, you know that, oh, the world runs on card games and card games only, oh, critique. Well, yeah. This card game has a reason for that. Instead of cards being cards, they are portals for the monsters, and there are schools like Aibo dedicated to mastering it, and Buddy Police, which can stop rogue monsters and protect innocent buddy fighters. I felt like this detail not only fixed the complaint of card game animes being solely on card games and forgetting other aspects of life, but it also helped add it to the world building and how much of an impact the parallel worlds have on Earth. You see what it did there? You see what it did there? It would be stupid to turn $1 million military arms company to a company that makes equipment for a single card game, like in Yu-Gi-Oh!, where Duel Monsters isn't even the biggest thing. However, in Buddy Fight is the biggest thing. We see the monsters all around us. We see the action happening. It's not just a card game in this world. Moving on from the world building, another thing Buddy Fight does amazing is the characters. Boy, I love the characters of Buddy Fight. Not just the protagonists, but the background characters, supporting characters. They're all just amazing and bring their own unique aspect to the series. Seeing someone as cheerful as Kazane and Tetsuya interact with humble people like Sanya and Genma, it made me love the series even more. Seeing all these unique characters with unique attributes not only interact, but buddy fight as well, and not just being around the main character for the purpose of being a part of his group, it's interesting. And they all brought their unique quirks into the mix. Whether it's personal goals like Kazane's desire to make 100 friends through buddy fight, Noboru's desire to get stronger just like Gao, or Zanya's fear for girls, which honestly is just really funny. Also, I want to say what's really funny as well is how in 100 he used a head visor to block the shield for the girls. I just thought that was funny. The human characters weren't just the only ones, the monsters as well. And one of them that I definitely want to shine a spotlight on is Demon Lord Asmodai. Asmodai has been in the season since episode 3, and he's always a pleasure to see. Whether he's helping new buddies on the block like Ball, or he's giving good advice to Tetsuya, being someone as a parent to him, he's just so amazing to see. I love him. He's also a celebrity. You can't help but like. Asmodai is amazing. I love Asmodai. Asmodai, if you're watching this, please DM me. Please DM me. I love you. I love you so much. Give me the link to your OnlyFans. I love you so much. You're my king. You're my king. I simp for you. Smodai simping aside, all the buddies weren't just there to be cute mascot characters, to be cute and sell the card games. They had their own personalities as well, and they all cared for their buddies, well, humans, in their own unique way. For example, Drum's stubbornness was usually there to look out for Gao, but sometimes came off as rude, kind of what his character is for. Bladewing Phoenix always saying that people are ill-mannered because they mistreat Kazane. Abigail's cold-hearted nature to protect Gaido and help fight against Kyoya. They all weren't just mascot characters. They all had unique attributes and personalities that I really enjoyed. And yes, I would love a Ball plushie, thank you very much. Despite this praise for characters, some characters didn't shine as bright as they did. For example, one character that I felt got shafted heavily through Season 1 is Rouga. When Rouga was introduced, he was meant to be a Gao's rival, and also Kiri, because they were introduced in the same episode pretty much. Rouga was meant to challenge Gao's ideas of making friends through buddy fight, believing only winning mattered. This win only matters mentality was also accompanied by his desire to go against Kyoya and fight against him in a buddy fight to win. And seeing him work with Shido and Kyoya and not like it was interesting. However, throughout the series, he seemed to get pushed to the side for other antagonists like Shido and Davide, which felt less enjoyable and not as cool as Rouga. It would have been cool to see Rouga team up with Gao and Kiri and Tsuku to take down Kyoya after he figured out what Kyoya was doing, instead of him just being on the team and being another pawn in his plan. While it did happen in the last few episodes of Season 1 as he did join together with Tsuku, it still felt rushed. He had character that I wanted to see grow, and would have been much more interesting if he had that antagonist to protagonist shift. It was obvious that's what his character was going for, and yes, it did happen in 100, but it just felt like it was too late. It was set up in the first season, and it should have happened in the first season. Speaking of Kiri also was weird. As we see, he's bad at buddy fight in the beginning, gets better, learns he doesn't need Disaster Core to be good, and he tries to be a better buddy fighter to save the world, and then in 100 it turns out, voila! He was a magical and powerful Omnilord the whole time. This turnaround in 100 felt honestly like a rushed concept and just a way for the writers to not write a new character in. While I do like Kiri and his dungeon world build, it just didn't sit right. Alright, I think I talked about those two characters enough. Now let's get into the character that I felt had the biggest problems. The main protagonist himself, Gao. Now, as a buddy fighter and card player, Gao is good, but as a protagonist, not so much. In the anime, it only seemed Gao would win, and used it as a way to grow pretty much, saying, "I won! Time to make a new friend or learn about the plot more." Don't get me wrong, I don't hate Gao whatsoever, as I do believe he's really enjoyable to watch. He has a cheerful and happy personality, and his morals as the mighty sun fighter is such a cool aspect and code that inspires him to fight and push on. However, that was really it. His character lacked the build of other protags, where instead of questioning his morals or strategy, he usually relied on his friends Baku and Kuguru to help him, instead of just doing it himself. Even when they discuss strategy, it's not like they talk about the card or open boosters, it's just Baku puts a card in, Kuguru analyzes it, and if it's triple D onwards, Noboru makes a smart remark. Repeat it. As Gao kept winning, it didn't feel valuable to someone like Aichi and Vanguard. In Season 1, Aichi lost a lot. Not like losing once and then winning a lot to realize friendship, but like losing because he's a beginner and he needs to improve his deck and strategies to get better in the game. Each loss he faced helped him understand the game more and more and made him feel confident in winning the next one for when he faces Kai. So when we see him lose, it's a bittersweet aspect for the viewer, as it's sad to see him lose, but at least we're going to see him improve and figure out his cards. Gao, on the other hand, just wins, makes friends, gets the lucky card aspect to help him turn around and win. A good amount of the time, he uses impact, and then he wins, makes a friend. His matches have little substance. The only match we got close to seeing some substance is in the climax of Season 1, with his fight against Tasuku and Kyoya. Personally, I would have loved to see Tasuku be the protagonist instead of Gao. Not only would it be more interesting, but it would have been a different journey. Instead of just a middle school kid, we would see a police officer at age 12 gifted with Future Force to help protect people. Not only that, but we also see his journey to fight the Dark Core, him getting possessed and becoming the Purgatory Knight, and then redeeming himself by fighting it off. It's fascinating. Tasuku's perspective would have honestly made this already good anime better, both through his personality and character journey. A final complaint I have to make about the anime is more of a nitpick, but the CGI in this show, yeah, it's not that good. Why couldn't they just stick with 2D? So to sum up, while the Buddyfight anime is flawed, it still had its cute, unique charm that made it special from other card game animes. If you're looking for a serious card game, this is not it. But if you're looking for a fun, laid-back series about cards, then this one is for you. It's made by Sebek with collaboration from OLM, the same studio who made the Pokemon anime, Yokai Watch anime, Inazuma 11, and others you might be familiar with. Now, if this was a different year, say early 2019 or late 2018, I would say you can catch up on Buddyfight Ace, the new series. Unfortunately, as of March 2019, the Buddyfight anime was cancelled out of nowhere. Little did anyone know, this was just a spiral to the end of the card game many Buddyfighters have come to love. But the question is, why? Part 3. The Downfall. Now it's time to discuss the unfortunate part, the downfall. Buddyfight, as stated multiple times in this video, has been cancelled and has just released their last booster set for English speakers on September 25th. So what did it? What pushed Buddyfight over the edge for it to die? Well, aside from current events around the world, there were 3 big aspects that I felt led to its downfall. For starters, the anime getting cancelled. While the Buddyfight anime was good, and a lot of fans praised Ace's story, the cancellation was the result of the company, Sebek, who worked with OLM in making the anime, going defunct, and the copyright reverting back to IG Productions. Without this partnership, OLM could not continue the production of the Buddyfight anime further. Many card games made in Japan rely heavily on anime, not only to promote the card game to the little kids, but give the card game a different life as a franchise. If people weren't interested in the card game or couldn't afford it, then at least they can immerse themselves in the world by watching and tuning in every Saturday. Not having an anime was a bad disadvantage Bushiroad and Buddyfight had, as not only their viewer count would only decrease, but kids and adults they were targeting would completely miss it or not even acknowledge its existence. The second factor that led to its downfall is sales. Compared to other games like Vanguard and Vice Schwartz, Buddyfight was doing bad when it came to actually selling the cards. This is evident in Bushiroad's financial report in July 2019, under their TCG market. Not only did 2019 experience the least successful fiscal year, with net sales decreasing compared to the other markets like the mobile app market and music, but also, when we read their notes, we are quick to see Vice Schwartz achieving record sales, and Vanguard tournament participation increased 48%. While the TCG market didn't do the greatest, it was obvious that 2 of their 3 card games were doing good, while the other one just wasn't pushing strong. While the interest for Vanguard and Vice Schwartz were present, there was none for Buddyfight. Whether it was the anime's cancellation or the power creep scaring people away from competitive play, no one is sure why. Now I want to get into the final aspect and what I feel is the biggest flaw. But before I say this, let me ask you, how many of your friends and or family know or heard of Buddyfight? Yeah, they probably don't know. And that's because the biggest problem with Buddyfight ever since its first days was advertising. When it came to Japan and most countries in Asia, Buddyfight was probably present and shown in the commercials. When it came to the Western audience, it was just limited to card shops and their YouTube videos. Heck, even the in-video ads were just interrupted by an actual YouTube ad. This is vastly different than, let's say, how Konami puts their booster ads in the YouTube. You can't skip them. And even if you are watching a video about a different card game, you're probably gonna see it. Bushiroad's card games barely get advertising and were most likely to be brushed off as a clone or a knockoff. Even their YouTube channel has given up on advertising the game, and it's a shame considering what they have done in the previous years. Let me ask you something. What do you think is more appealing and or eye-catching? This?
So for those of you who are unable to attend,
We are here! Or this?
Thanks to the buddy fighters who took part in the polls last week. Our topic last week was who the audience thought was the most hot-blooded, energetic character from the anime series.
By viewing these 2 clips, one looks like an actual company promoting the product, and the other seems like a PowerPoint presentation. Buddyfight now only uploads poorly made videos to ask fans stuff like favorite set, favorite character, and any other thing they can scrape off the empty drawing board. It doesn't feel like they're breathing life into this already dying series, and rather, instead of engaging, they just say news and a poll and nothing else. Even in the Vanguard anime, they aren't showing ads for the new Buddyfight sets like they've done in the previous years. The advertising to the series was terrible, and in the West, it was worse because when you go to big department stores that sell card games on the side, you probably would never see these card games on the shelves when you go to check Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, or Magic, meaning there was no real way for you to get into it unless you look online. If Bushiroad Global took things more serious, like pushing for commercials on YouTube ads, putting them on department store shelves like Walmart, and putting more effort into content like Bushinavi, it could have been a much more successful card game and could continue a few more years. However, this will now forever be a what if, and if not careful, Cardfight Vanguard could face the same demise. Final verdict. Through its 6-year run, Future Card Buddyfight was a humble yet exciting card game. Although not seeing the big spotlight Vanguard got in its early years, it still had a good following around it and brought a good amount of people together. While it wasn't the best one, it was in no way a terrible series and deserves the respect it gets. This goes to you, Buddyfight. Thank you for the great memories and years playing. You were there for me in middle school alongside Vanguard, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without you guys. Thank you so much, and let's hope to open a Buddy Rare card in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Buddyfight has been such a meaningful series to me, and to be able to talk about it is amazing. I also want to give special thanks to Master Riolu on Discord and Buddyfight YouTubers Zenitsu and Dragon King. I am so grateful for you answering my questions and discussing your love of Buddyfight with me. Also, thank you Oyster Tech or Steven for encouraging me to make a video. He's an amazing person, and you should check out his channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.